What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, I'm actually going to be recycling an Instagram live fitness Q&A that I did with 3 other Christian fitness coaches. So right now I'm actually going through a business mentorship program. So yes, even coaches have coaches. I think getting mentorship and trying to reach your goals is a great idea. But one of the pleasures that I've had while going through this program, because I'm working with a Christian business coach, is that I've been connected to some really awesome Christian fitness coaches like Nick, Chase, and Brian, who you're about to meet a little bit later in this video. But what we did was we wanted to brainstorm ways that we could provide as much value as possible to our audience. So we came up with doing an Instagram live fitness Q&A. So we put up the question poll box on our Instagram stories. We allowed our followers to ask questions. And then what we did was we got together for an hour and we just answered all of those questions. So what I'm going to do is timestamp the video. So as you scrub through the bottom of the video, you can see what questions are being answered, or if you go into the video description, you'll see the timestamp for each of those. So then you can just click on that particular question. It'll take you right to the answer. Of course, I am biased here. I think the entire video is worth watching just because we did provide a tremendous amount of value. So if you've got the time or you're busy doing something, just throw it on in the background, give it a listen. But without further ado, guys, let's hop into that Q&A and see what we talked about. Well, there we go.
There it is.
Good to see you guys. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, man. So it looks like we are starting to get some questions here in the chat. But before we dive into that, maybe we can just go around and kind of introduce all of ourselves. I know we got connected through Brandon Forbes' coaching program, but it's a pleasure to be on with a bunch of other Christian fitness coaches, our first Instagram live together. But I think it's going to be a good time. So maybe, Chase, you want to start with us? Start with you, and then just like we'll go around in a circle here and give an intro.
Yeah, totally. Well, guys, my name's Chase Utley. I'm 25 years old here in Dallas, Texas, and I help, mostly just other guys lose weight, build muscle, and pursue the version of themselves that they feel the Lord's called them to be. And I'm happy to be on here with you guys and hopefully just give a ton of value in the best way that I can. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. All right, how about you, Brian?
My name is Brian Farringer. I live up in Idaho. I'm 24 years old, and my main objective is to help men to achieve what I did. I always struggled my entire life to put on weight and with self-confidence and just being comfortable in my own skin. And, these days I don't deal with that anymore because I decided to make some changes all around as a healthier lifestyle. So now I help men to build muscle and achieve their.
How about you, Nick?
Hey guys, so my name is Nick. I'm out of South Florida. I'm 31. I've been involved with fitness total over 15 years, 6 years as a coach, and I was primarily in public accounting actually. I'm a CPA as well in the state of Florida. Anyways, who I really specialize in helping. I like helping others that are very driven professionally, be it if you're a business owner or just someone in the corporate business world, as I was priorly in that as well. And I like helping with gaining muscle and getting stronger as well as with fat loss. And just great to be with another few Christian guys as well who are all great coaches and all love not only the Lord but helping others. So
yeah, absolutely, dude. That's awesome. I didn't know that you were in Southwest Florida or South Florida. I'm down in Sarasota.
Oh, very cool. I'm in Boca. I'm maybe 50 miles from Miami. Yeah.
I mean, and you're a CPA. I'll have to hit you up for all the tax stuff, even though you're a fitness coach now. So that's super cool. I didn't know that about you.
Oh yeah, and hey, I'm here. If you guys need this, I didn't do tax. I actually did financial statement auditing, but I'm here if I can ever be of help.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good, man. Yeah, and then for those that don't know me, my name is Tyler. Also go by Tyler the Fit Chemist, formerly an organic chemist. So I graduated in May of 2022 from Boston University with a PhD in organic chemistry, but now it is just a fancy piece of wallpaper that is sitting above my desk, right above me here. I really felt God telling me in my last year of graduate school, like, Tyler, I know you just went to school for 9 years for this, but I have you going elsewhere. So, coaching men specifically for weight loss was a side hustle in graduate school. And I just felt that I need to move down to Florida after doing that and take this full time. And God's been blessing the business. Like you guys, I have the pleasure of working with Christian guys and just being able to lead them to the Lord, deepen their relationship spiritually, but also take care of their temples and honor their temples like we're called to do. So yeah, guys, it's a pleasure being here on the call with you guys. But yeah, you guys want to dive into some questions here in the chat? I think we had one. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff in here, but I think the first one was about motivation. So just kind of like, how do you get motivated and stay motivated to work out? So does anybody want to tackle that one first?
Yeah, dude. So there's two types of motivation that I was taught in my training, and that's going to be your intrinsic motivation versus the extrinsic. So the key difference being that one comes from, you have a desire to get fit for your own, your own homeostasis, your health, right? And it's not driven by any kind of desire for what people will think of you or how they're going to view you. So that's your intrinsic side. Extrinsically, you're going to have, like you want to look good on the beach and feel good. You want to be part of a social circle that does, work out or, that kind of stuff. A lot of people will do it because they're, looking for a significant other and they want to prepare to be better. And for me, like when I first started, I'll be honest, my entire motivation for getting fit at first was just basically to prove wrong everybody that called me the skinny guy, the scrawny guy my whole life. And as I did that and I started to hit my goals and break those plateaus, my motivation shifted intrinsically to where I actually loved the act of working out and what I was doing. Um, and so it's cool. It doesn't really matter necessarily where your motivation's at to begin with. It's all about what you do and the dedication that you take towards
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
fitness journey.
Chase or Nick, you guys have anything to add on motivation? That's something I hear from a lot of guys too. So we could probably spend like 30 minutes talking about this one.
Yeah, I mean, so when I got started, I was like 16, turning 17, and I think a lot of people get started for more extrinsic type reasons, where picking up chicks, or for gals, picking up dudes, just looking better for others to think you look better. But the most powerful reason that's going to really help you stay in this is if you have good intrinsic desire, where you want to be better just for the sole sake of it, kind of, so to speak, because ultimately you actually only have control over how you feel about yourself, and you cannot control how others feel. So like the extrinsic motivation is it's not just to put it down like it's bad if you have it, because that's natural, but you really want to focus, I think, with having good intrinsic motivation, having that be more the focus. And what happens is when you do things for the right reason, it's going to get that same effect of the more extrinsic motivations of people looking up to you, people of the opposite sex being interested in you, finding you more attractive. But it's kind of like, the horse before the wagon, so to speak. You got to be more intrinsically motivated. I like how Brian broke it down. It is really extrinsic and extrinsic and intrinsic reasons. Yeah, definitely.
For sure. How about you, Chase? You got anything?
I think like what Brian was saying is so solid. I think usually you start because you want the extrinsic validation. You want people to think that you're, this version of yourself, And as you go, I think you kind of mature and you realize that maybe you didn't really care what they thought all along, but that you just needed your own validation for yourself, and you get to a place where you're like, you know what? I want to do this because I want to see what my full potential is, and I want to live not, I don't want to live in a fantasy of seeing, like a Hollywood superhero type people, right? And just be like, oh man, if I could only look like them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm not doing anything to take myself closer to that kind of person, Instead of doing that, just being like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can today with what I have, the knowledge that I do have, to put myself in a better position today so that tomorrow I'll be that much closer to my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love all of your guys' answers. I think I'm going to take a different spin on this. I think I totally agree with intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. But usually when someone's talking to me about that, I sort of default back to motivation is a feeling, but discipline is an action regardless of how you're feeling. And I think the sooner that you can learn to have that discipline, like motivation will come and go, right? You're not always going to feel motivated. I'm sure every single one of us that are on this call right now can agree. There are days where we don't want to go to the gym, like we don't have motivation, but we've built that habit of discipline of going anyways. And then I always jokingly say, you basically have three options, right? You can go do the workout. You're going to feel great afterwards. You could you could do the workout and then not feel great afterwards, which is not going to be an option. Or you just don't do it entirely and you still feel bad about it. So like out of those three options, right, you have that one choice that's going to make you feel better, going to bring you to being a better person and a better version of yourself. So like, why would you not make those choices, if that makes sense?
I love that. Dedication and the feeling of motivation can be overcome just by making the choice to show up for yourself despite how you're feeling. Because we do that in our life, right? Like, I don't want to go to work, right? For example, I don't want to go to work, but I know that if I don't, I'm I'm going to probably start to build a bad track record and end up getting fired. And so we go up for ourselves despite how we're feeling, and we put those aside. And Tyler, while you're going, dude, I wanted to hit you with one that I think is probably best suited for you, being that you got your PhD, and you also got fit in the process of that. So how did you fit your, all of your resistance training and all of the nutrition and meal prepping and all of that into such a
That's a big one
schedule?
I hear. I'm sure all of us here is just like time. I don't have time for this. My schedule is too hectic, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I feel like I'm almost uniquely qualified to answer that just because graduate school was such a grind. I was working 10 or 11-hour days in the lab, 6 days per week. And then Sunday was basically laundry, grocery shop, meal prep, doing all the errands that I couldn't do the other 6 days of the week because I was busy in lab. And I think really what it comes down to is one, knowing how to manage your time effectively. Just because, for example, if I had like a 45-minute time block in my morning, I could go to the gym and use that effectively. And I didn't have to spend 2 hours in the gym each day to get to my result. So I say that's the first one, is just knowing like, okay, if I only have 3 days to work out each week, how am I effective with those 45 minutes? But then within those workouts, I personally like to use supersets a lot, just because, for example, let's say I'm doing bench press, and then while I'm resting, I can be doing something like a dumbbell row, for example. While my chest is resting, I'm working my back, and then I can basically slash my rest period in half. So that way I'm a lot more efficient within that workout as well. But I think on top of that, just being mindful of it, planning, like for example, I'm going to be posting a YouTube video soon here that's talking about time blocking. Like put it on your schedule. So Nick, I know you work with corporate men. Like I guarantee those people, if they have a business meeting, they're putting it on the calendar and they're going to it no matter what. So why would we not treat our workouts or like meal planning or grocery shopping time any different? Like put it on the calendar and make it a non-negotiable.
No,
What about you guys?
absolutely. Agreed. Something else you hit on as well, because when I was in public accounting, I mean, we worked long hours during busy season, and I hardly was the one that worked as much as some people at other bigger firms. I was at a small firm. We did 55 hours in season. I've heard of people having a week here and there doing 100+ hours. Some people doing consistently 60+ or 70+ hours at some of the big four firms. Anyways, a very common thread with folks in the corporate professional world that really got to get workouts in. Obviously, like Tyler said, with time management, blocking your time, specifically with something like working out, where you get that done, it's kind of like a separate activity versus, work, possibly picking up your kids, preparing dinner. It either gets done like first thing in the morning or usually last thing in the day, or on the way home from work. Usually just kind of ways to really block your time well, where you get things done efficiently. You're not like work a little, put everything down, have to pack your stuff, go to the gym at this time, then you have to come back, get reset up to work, and then you try to block things in a way you're going from a point A to point B in a succinct area, try to cut out the point C and D in between A and B, just kind of like that. That's a very common thread, though. I was the same way. I worked out first thing in the morning for years, waking up at 3 a.m. to train, and then it was always either that or working out at night was the kind of options, especially when you're, in the corporate world and you're kind of like a set kind of schedule and going into an office. Yeah.
To hop back in there, I think that's something I forgot to mention that you just touched on, is that I would do morning workouts too, because oftentimes if I was busy in lab, there were times where something would pop up and I'd have to stay later than anticipated. So it's like if I was planning on leaving at 6 and getting to the gym by 6:30, well, maybe I have to stay till 8 now, and I'm not getting that workout in. So if you can, like my favorite morning routine, get up, spend some time in the Word, do your daily devotion, allow your body to wake up a little bit, and then if you train fasted or if you want to have something small, go ahead and do that. But just go knock your workout out, because then you feel great starting your day after that, but then you don't have to worry about it. No matter what work throws at you, kids, life, family work, all that kind of stuff, you should be good to go. But Chase or Brian, you guys have anything to add about fitting fitness into a busy schedule?
Yeah, I personally, I'm going to take the opposite take on this. I love evening workouts. Reason being, especially if you've had a long day at work, right? Like, you know how work is. Some days are really productive. Others, you're just there for 8 or 9 hours and feel like you got nothing done. And honestly, I think, get out that energy that you honestly kind of have pent up in you in the sedentary work of corporate America, And so when you're able to just go to the gym and you're able to just hit your session and then go home afterwards, it feels like even if you had an unproductive day at work, you know what I mean? You're able to be like, okay, I still got something really good in for myself. And I think it's the best thing ever, but I'm a little biased too. So
What about you, Brian? Are you an evening or morning gym goer?
Yeah, no, I'm the same as Chase. You're
All right,
definitely an evening.
50-50
I'm more
split here.
myself, but I won't spend too much time on that because you guys just hit everything perfectly, and I definitely side with Chase just in terms of when I work out. But I did want to say, Peyton, dude, that's hilarious, bro. Just hitting 50 push-ups every time I
Yeah.
sail doesn't go. That's makes sense of motivation. And one question, I don't even know if this was like in our list of what we received, guys, but one question that would be kind of cool is like, so along with the being busy and right, like how much can you work out from home versus the gym? Like in your guys, is it possible? I already know the answer to this, but is it possible to get with your own body weight or equipment?
Yeah, absolutely. Chase or Nick, you want to answer that? If not, I got something ready. I can dive in.
Yeah, I would say that you always can get something done with minimal equipment. It always comes down to your goals and what equipment you have. Like for those of you getting started, you're going to be more likely, even if you have very minimal equipment or none, you bring in like a pull-up bar, potentially bands if you're not ready to do them yet.
Yep.
And, push-ups and pull-ups and then just some body weight leg movements are going to cover a very wide array for you and going to be more than enough to get you started. As you get more advanced and depending on your goals, the gym is going to become a more vital tool with the different equipment and stuff it has. But it's really so. In short, I think most people absolutely can be getting something done at home and stuff. And I think the pandemic taught us that when the gyms were closed and stuff. Even myself, with kind of somewhere between very little equipment and not a lot, was still able to get something done. Not be at my best, but still better than nothing. And no, so you absolutely can be doing things well from home, but it does come down to goals too, as well. So there are a lot of people want to get more advanced. It's very helpful to be in a gym environment and have access to more equipment. That's my personal take.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I think it's possible. It's also goal dependent. So I think for a lot of cases, people are looking to lose weight in that context, and working out at home is absolutely something that you can do and lose weight. I'm very fortunate to have a garage gym, so I can literally step right outside and be able to lift weights in the
Awesome.
garage. So if that's not an option, though, I realize not everybody has that luxury. Like adjustable dumbbell sets would sort of be a step down in terms of cost. And then after that, resistance bands. Like you can get a set of resistance bands on Amazon for $20. And dude, I was doing resistance band workouts for a year and a half during COVID because literally everything in Boston was shut down. The gyms took forever to reopen. So you can still see really good progress. But I echo what Nick said. With a lot of cases, body weight will be totally fine. And then as you start to progress, because there's people too who kind of have, I know gym intimidation is kind of one of the things Brian talks about in some of his messaging and things like that, where if someone is overweight or maybe they're a beginner and they just don't feel confident stepping into the gym yet, I think starting your fitness journey at home would be a great option until you start to build that confidence, get a little bit more comfortable with it, and then you're ready to step into the gym.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, I got a question if it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is y'all's take on weekly meal prep?
Mm-hmm.
Opening it up. I want to hear the opinion.
So again, this is another question that's goal dependent, right? But so in my case, right, I have a very fast metabolism, and so if it's really a matter of as long as I'm above my calorie expenditure level, I'll be okay. Typically, and I'm not going to claim perfection, like I meal prep 7 days a week, every week, but at the very least, and I'm very different from, the demographic of who you guys work with in terms of bulking versus cutting, right? And so for me, it's just, I encourage my clients to implement a lot of, liquid calories with the appetite portion. They've got too low of an appetite and a fast metabolism, which just isn't a complementary pair. And so liquid calories can be huge for that if you're trying to, keep your calories above what you expend. And I just have these guys do exactly what I do. So 3-4 meals a day for myself, a shake or two in there. Right now I'm probably around 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day as I'm bulking. And yeah, we got Nick.
Okay, so for me with meal prep, it typically is done on a weekly basis, and it's just totally just time and scheduling consideration, so I don't have to cook every day,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean it's then what will happen sometimes is the biggest thing I don't like about the weekly meal prep is I like clean food, but sometimes just microwaving things constantly gets boring. So I do try to maybe once during the week kind of have more of like a fresh meal, whether I grill steak or burgers or whatnot, or just, but no, basically the meal prep, it gets done, once a week. And then I don't like put everything in individual Tupperware containers all at once, but I just portion the stuff then as I'm going. That's my style, and just it's mainly time and schedule considerations is why I do it that way.
Yeah. I think something that kind of goes through a lot of the questions we've talked about already, but really it's just individualized and dependent on you, your goals, what fits your lifestyle, right? So like all these different answers, these are specific to us guys, but you don't necessarily need to go and copy that. You need to find what works for you. That being said, I would say I kind of became a meal prep master in graduate school. I jokingly called my kitchen the meal prep palace because literally, like I said, on Sunday, that was the only time I had to cook. So if I didn't cook my meals on Sunday, like I was not eating during the week, right? Because I didn't have time to run out of the lab and go get stuff. So I kind of became really efficient with that. I do personally meal prep and microwave all my meals throughout the week. But what I do is I do Monday through Saturday. So I actually only do 6 days worth of meals. And then that way, when Sunday comes around, I wouldn't call it a cheat day because I'm not a huge fan of that kind of term. Like if you're fitting things into your calorie and macro goals, it doesn't need to be considered a cheat day. But what I'll do is I'll kind of figure out like what I'm craving during the week. If I see someone having Five Guys, I'm like, oh dude, that looks so good. That's what I'm going to have for dinner on Sunday or something like that. Maybe I want Chipotle, something to that effect. So that way I can still get some sort of variety in there. But I do realize not everybody can do that, right? So in that case, I recommend like get an Instant Pot, get a slow cooker, something that you can like cook bulk meat. And then from there, you can have a bunch of variety, right? So if you just grill chicken breast for the week, you can have wraps, you can do tacos, fajitas, quesadillas, like throw it in whatever you want, right? And then that way you still sort of have your protein source and you're making sure you're hitting those goals, but it gives you variety during the week. But I think, again, this goes back to what I said initially, where you just need to find what works for you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I know one question we got too was kind of like the different types of diets. So Chase, hit us with like some of the stuff you hear. I think intermittent fasting was one of them.
Yeah.
But just like walk us through what are the best diets?
Yeah. I mean, best, I mean, like we said, best is all going to be dependent on what gets you to your nutritional goals. Here's the ones I hear the most, right? I've tried keto, paleo, carnivore, intermittent fasting, cutting carbs,
Yep.
right? Like we've heard all this stuff.
Daniel fast. That's another
Daniel fast. I know. And at the end of the day, I mean, like we know how the game works. The nutrition is honestly, it's about math and it's about formulas. And as much as that's, kind of not exciting, maybe, I don't know. For me, it gives me a lot of freedom and a lot of peace because then I just know as long as I hit my certain numbers, right? Like I'm going to hit my goals. And so with my clients, for example, right? I talk about this concept of having a calorie budget.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, you view your day as you have a certain amount of calories that you can spend, right? So if I'm trying to lose a certain amount of weight, whatever, and my deficit I need to be eating in is 2,000 calories a day, right? We've got that, and then we have to look at the day, and we have to say, okay, cool. I only have this much, and I can't go in debt, right? In other words, I can't eat more than that because I'm in debt to myself tomorrow, right? And yeah, you could run it off, you could do extra cardio, right? But like you said, Tyler, we don't want to operate on the cheat myself system.
Yep.
Cheat meals, cheat days, cheat foods. I don't like that. What I would rather say is, how about you just budget a couple hundred extra calories at the end of the day to enjoy a food that you would typically consider a cheat food, but because it's within your budget, it's actually not cheating at all because you planned ahead and you can have that in your diet. So when you're dieting, it's not about looking at food as, oh, this food's good, this food's bad. Yes, there are some foods that are less dense in micro and macronutrients, 100%. But at the end of the day, it's about portions, it's about moderation, it's about control, and it's about knowing your numbers to get you where you want to be.
Yeah. What about you, Nick or Brian? Anything to add on types of diets?
I mean, so I won't touch on like any specific, ketogenic, any of that, but I guess just the difference between lean bulking and dirty bulking is going to be, really whether or not you're calculating what you're taking in, or if you're just kind of going for it and eating absolutely everything you and I'll keep it short on my end because of my demographic. But you know, the lean bulk is going to be better for a lot of people if you're prone to putting on body fat. If in my case, like honestly, I don't always track my exact calories because I know my body well enough to where I'm not going to put on body fat. It's like that's a struggle for me, and so yeah, I mean, there's different ways to go about it for every person. And the recurring theme throughout this that I keep noticing is every single person is going to be different. Like, and if you're on this live stream and you're like, man, I'm going to go and apply these things, like definitely, you know, you want to make sure that you're not just taking what you hear from us and applying it to yourself, because what works for me may not necessarily work for you.
Yep. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, no, the common thread we're saying too is all of us, Tyler brought up, Chase and Brian too, is just you got to figure what works best for you. And it's always with what are your goals, what's going to be enjoyable, best for you to follow, what just jives with how your body works. Everyone's energy expenditures and just composition and metabolism is a little different, hormone levels as well. What I say with, in terms of getting back to the question with diets, I don't have a qualm with any of the diets, but I also not a fan of any of the diets, and because they're not really addressing the crux of just getting you from, okay, if you're looking to gain muscle or you're looking to lose fat, none of them really address the crux of that, which is with your calorie balance of calories in versus calories out, and then that's got to be structured in a certain way with the macros, where it's not, you know, it's the macros are what make up your calories you're consuming. So it's not just calories in versus calories out. The calories in is comprised with how you're taking in the macros, and then how that allocation affects, you know, your calories out as well. It can affect your metabolism, it can affect your hormones, it can affect just how your body functions. So what I would say is you got it with the diet. I don't have a qualm with people following a diet, but it's got to be for good reason. And most of the people that do best with diets, they have somewhat of a sustainable approach where they don't follow things to the T, or they don't follow things and just because the diet says it, I cut out this food group. And so like the closer people move to like how they should actually be doing it, the more typically you see people are not following diets. They're not following any, whether it's vegan or keto or paleo or I don't know what else is there, intermittent fasting. Any of the things can get worked, or at least the principles within them. To try to just put the whole thing together with you, it just the people that are most successful and more sustainably as well. The main problem with diets is usually sustainability. It's they have a level of adaptability where it's and some of the diets do have better levels of adaptability than others, but there's always this level of adaptability where people apply things better for themselves. So you can end up fitting into a certain diet potentially if you really truly had that need without doing the diet. So the focus has got to be really on you, what you need, how your body is, what works for you, what's going to work with your schedule. That's what I would advise people. You know, there's nothing wrong with trying something, but just don't get set into it like it's like a religion. That's the kind of thing I would advise with diets. Overall, I'm not a very big fan with them, really. You know.
Absolutely. So I think one way that our viewers can think about it too, not sure if you guys saw the post I did last week, but it was the nutrition pyramid, right? So along the bottom, like that's going to be the most important thing. That's the foundation. And what I say for that is adherence. So if you can't adhere to whatever quote unquote diet you're doing, whether that's keto, intermittent fasting, paleo, South Beach, Daniel fast, all those things, if that's not something that you see yourself doing 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 20 years from now, that's not going to be the diet for you, because whatever you do to lose this weight in the first place is going to be what you have to do to keep it off. But I also think part of it comes back to maybe a lack of understanding and not really understanding what it is Chase was describing with the calorie budget. So for example, Brian works with clients who are trying to gain weight, right? So they need to be in a calorie surplus. And then the clients that we work with are trying to lose weight, so they need to be in a calorie deficit. And if you think about that in terms of your budget, right, they don't really know that the diets that they're on are just tools to either create that calorie surplus or calorie deficit. So for example, if you're doing intermittent fasting, let's say you just start skipping breakfast all of a sudden and you used to consume 700 calories at breakfast. Well, guess what? You just created a 700 calorie deficit without realizing what you're doing. So that's why things like intermittent fasting work, keto work. But ultimately what happens is people that are on those diets, they'll see success for a short term, right? And then they'll start to stall out or plateau, and they don't really know why they saw that progress in the first place. And then they don't know what to change because they don't understand the principle of counting calories. And I think something that Brian said too is I agree with. Eventually you want to get to a point where you don't have to track calories, right? Like all of us have been doing this for so long that we know our bodies so well. We intuitively can look at a meal and know roughly the calorie count, the macros, this is what I should be eating versus not eating, that kind of thing. But I do think it's good for everybody to go through a short period of that to at least have that nutritional awareness to then go into the future and know like roughly what your body's going to do and respond to on certain types of diets or foods, etc. So does anybody have anything else to add on the diets before we hop into the next book?
I totally agree with you on the point with counting macros at certain times because, I haven't counted macros in quite some time, but once the times that I did back years ago, which I did for actually a pretty long period, but the counting macros, guys, for those of you on the live stream watching, all four of us really know this from experience. It's going to help you get an understanding of what the food's comprised of, and then you don't need to be a machine constantly weighing and measuring things. But once you kind of have a better baseline understanding, and you look at yourself, you see how you look, you can gauge with how you're doing with your performance, then you kind of know what kind of adjustments to make with adjusting the macros. If you need to get more meals in, it's not rocket science, guys. There's a science behind it, but it's not rocket science. So, but doing some time with counting macros and more tracking things will give you that basic understanding if you do it in a more exact way versus you just kind of, the more exact you can get, you'll see the ins and outs. And then when you see the ins and outs, you don't have to go back through the ins and outs to know them. It's kind of like the best way I can put it, I think what Tyler hit on too. I totally agree with that. With good to do it for a bit and then, or whatever kind of time period, learn some things, and then you don't always have to do it though. Definitely.
I think one more thing I would add on to that is I think that macros in general, when you first look at it, it's like, dang, you're telling me I have to track 4 different numbers every day with all my food, right? So now it's not just, I have to stay away from this kind of like fatty food or carby food, whatever, but I have to know all these numbers, right? I think it was Grego Gallagher with Kino Body. I don't know if you guys remember Kino Body from like years ago, but dude, this guy, I remember buying his program, and he put macros in like such an easy way. He was like, look, worry about your calories primarily, your protein second off, and let your carbs and fats just fall where they may. Like, in other words, don't count necessarily your carbs and fats like super diligently, because those are going to mainly work themselves out. Like, focus on your calories. That's what's going to get you either in a surplus where you're gaining weight or in a deficit when you're losing it. And focus on your protein goal, as that's what's going to be what keeps you full on a cut, but also sustains muscle growth as well. And so seeing that approach made things like super easy for me to tolerate. And that's what I advise my clients as well.
Yeah. Make it less overwhelming.
Yeah.
Although I think typically if you go to track in like an app like MyFitnessPal or Lose It or whatever is out there, you're typically tracking carbs and fats anyways. But I do agree. Yeah. Calories are king, then protein goal, because obviously you want to build muscle, and that's the building block for muscle. So yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. Rico,
that works for folks too, Joe. It was just he only simplifies almost 2 figures with calories and proteins, and then you probably have some kind of overriding guidance to get the diet in a way that the carbs and fats get into. If I had to guess, because I know I didn't do the Kino Body type of thing ever, but I've seen a little of him, and I think other people advise that kind of approach too, just to simplify things for folks, and that's more than enough to help people do what they need to with the nutrition. So if the simplicity works, awesome. There's different ways it can be done. I mean, some people track the carbs and proteins, and the fats fall into place. Some people everyone's like a little different with what works for them, and how they can conceptualize it,
I would say as long as they're not huge swings. So like if one day you're having 400 grams of carbs and like 10 grams of fat, and then the next day it's like, okay, 200 grams of fat and 5 grams of carbs, you're going to be throwing your body into whack like every day. Yeah. So they can definitely adjust on a day-to-day basis, but I would say like definitely don't go in such like drastic measures. I don't think people do that, but I definitely wanted to add that note, because obviously like fat intake helps with hormone regulation. So if you have no fat for 2 days, well, yeah, you're going to throw your body into like a weird cycle. Yeah. But yeah, I think Rico put something in the chat here, which made me think of a question. So he said, taking dieting in steps, just small steps at a time, works with achieving goals. So maybe we can talk about like goal setting, maybe with ourselves or also with clients, and kind of how we go about doing that. Because like, yeah, there are big fitness goals, but how do you break that down into smaller goals and actually enjoy that journey along the way, so you're not just constantly focused on the transformation that you want 12 months from now or whatever it might be. So does anyone want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, dude. So I always break the goals down into SMART goals, if you guys have heard of that. So specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic, and timely. So what that does is it makes goals that are actually feasible, right? Like if I say something like, I want to put on 100 pounds of muscle, right? It's first and foremost, like, it's not timely. That's a long-term goal. That's very, very long-term, and many people are lucky to ever get to that level. But the point being is, if you do the SMART goals, you specifically say, like, I want to put on X amount in this amount of time by doing X, right? So, and that's where the measurable portion comes in. This is how you can actually get there. What I do with my clients is I'll do like a 30 or a 60-day goal, and 9 times out of 10 they're always shocked. Like, I didn't think that I could actually get there in this time frame, but we're already there in week 6. And that's the cool thing is, if you break it down, those wins are so much like the wins in the beginning, the differences that you see in the mirror early on. That's what keeps you going in the long run.
Yep.
I got into fitness when I started to, like, first and foremost, people noticed the difference in me before I noticed it myself. And then suddenly I'm going from a medium to a large, and then I'm going from a large to an XL. And those were the goals that I didn't really realize I had, but it was like, man, I'm like really happy with what I've achieved. And what's cool is that anybody on here watching that thinks like, oh, look at their profiles, they just haven't made, they're just happy with where they're at. Dude, the grind never stops. Like, we're all 4 of us are always pushing to continue to push past plateaus. There is never an end point in fitness. Like, you just, like, oh, well, I'm happy, I'm just going to stop here,
So good,
That's
bro.
right mentality to have, dude. Absolutely.
Chase, you have anything to add on goals, goal setting, anything like that?
Yeah. I think when you start out, the kind of intrinsic motivation piece a little bit of just knowing, like, you said you were going to eat these foods, you ate the foods, and you kept that commitment to yourself. You didn't eat more than it, you didn't eat less than it. Like, you did what you said you were going to do. You went to the gym. You know, showed up at the time of the gym and left at the times you said. Like,
Yep.
it's just like building those like consistency habits. And after you know it, the first week flies by and you touch the weights that last week felt heavier and they feel a little bit lighter and your body's a little bit more recovered. And then as time goes on, you start noticing a little bit of vascularity. Like, it's the little consistencies that, honestly, like, if you focus on them up front, those are really the building blocks of where the big results come
Yep.
from. And so to anybody that's watching this is just like, oh dang, like Brian said, like, I want to bench a ton of weight or I want to put on a ton of muscle. Like, trust that those things will come, but right now focus on the consistent habits. Focus on getting your nutrition in place. Focus on going to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, like you said you were gonna do. You know what I mean? Like, focus on the little things, because the only difference, I love this quote, the only difference between professionals and amateurs is that professionals have mastered the basics. They've mastered the basics, and the results show from the basics and the consistency in the basics.
Yeah, that's really good. So I think my point here was kind of going along with what you said, but I think it's great to have goals. But for example, let's say someone wanted to lose like 3 pounds in a week. I think that's a good goal to have, for example, but I'm a big fan of also having goals that are more within your control. So weight loss isn't directly within your control. You can do things to try and get the scale go down, but I'm sure everybody here on the call, like both participating and viewing, has had those days where maybe you have like a Chipotle burrito or something, and now the scale's up 3 pounds, and like, that's outside of your control, right? But you can have your daily disciplines where it's like, okay, I'm going to the gym at this time. Like Chase said, another quote that I like to share here is, confidence is built through the promises that you keep to yourself. So if you tell yourself, like, I'm going to the gym at 6 p.m. after work, and you don't do it, well, guess what? You just took a knock at your own confidence. So follow through, do those daily disciplines. And if you focus on the goals that you set for yourself, that are things that are well within your control, going to the gym, maybe I'm going to try 3 out of the 4 meals for today, like if you're starting, or like 6 out of the 7 days this week, whatever it might be, set up some smaller daily goals that you can focus on. And like Chase said, if you continually do those building blocks over the long term, it's going to help you reach the big term goal that you're working towards. And I think that can go for literally anything. Like, all of us are growing businesses, we have other goals in our lives, things like that, where it's the same principles apply, right? Not just to fitness, where there's daily disciplines, there's things you have to do, just get them done and you're going to see the result.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on that Tyler and Chase both hit on. They use different terminology, but when I think of goals, I'm actually not good with setting the kind of output related goals, but I'm very good with having input related goals. What I mean by that, an output related goal is like if you're looking to gain muscle or you're looking to have a certain kind of physique, the output goal is a typical fitness goals we think of. I want to have this kind of physique. I want to have the V tapered physique. I want to add 5 pounds of muscle. The input related goals are what are you doing to get to those goals? So if I'm going to train 4 times a week, whatever, how many times, I'm going to follow this kind of a meal program. I'm not going to just goof off with my lifestyle. I'm going to make better lifestyle choices. Those would be like 3 input goals. So my thing is, even though I've always had like kind of goals. I've never been very formal with the output related with writing things down, with doing smart, with in terms of which is a great framework by the way. I'm not telling you guys to follow my example. I'm just telling you frankly, I've always been more with the input goals though, and even those I don't write down. I basically just go and do them. So the biggest thing is with having the goals is really kind of putting your mind to something, and it can actually be done in a less formal process than writing them out. And the other feedback I'd give, like what Chase and Tyler were saying, is the input kind of goals are the more important ones, I think, because again, with the horse before the cart type of concept, the input goals is the horse pulling the cart. The cart is getting to where you want to be with what kind of physique you have. So if you pick, those are the things, have all the kind of goals are great and figure, what works for you. And sometimes having the goals more formalized, if you're someone that's not as disciplined or not as motivated, that can help you with, give you kind of framework, kind of a, here's where I need to get, and could potentially increase your motivation too. Because I mean, some of the things I do are not what people tell you. They tell you got to write down goals. They got to be specific. They got to be measurable. They got to be, and I don't do those things. But for a lot of people, that's going to be very, very helpful. So something I wanted to share though, because that was exactly what I was thinking of when Chase and Tyler were starting to talk with, just kind of, those kind of goals are more input related, the actions you take
Yeah.
to reach the actual goals,
And sounds like you have a different approach than some of us do as far as like writing goals down and stuff. But again, it just goes back to everything we've said here. It's about finding works for you. If you're someone who operates like Nick, you don't want to write goals down. Okay. If you're someone who needs to see that every morning to remind yourself what to do, great, do that, right? There's no one size fits all solution here. I did see Robert put something in the comments. Robert, if you're still here, did you want to maybe expand a little bit more on your situation? He was talking about basically eating 2 big meals a day, then overeating on weekends. So maybe we can kind of help address that. But Robert, if you're still here and you want to like share your goals with us, maybe we can give you some extra tips, something like that. But I guess after hearing that, what are your guys' thoughts? Having 2 big meals a day and then overeating on weekends?
So, so he sided with the kind of shifts he have. And I generally do think the more, especially with in terms of when we're doing more main gaining style, which all of us seem to kind of promote closer to main gaining approaches, I think, where, you gain weight in a kind of, slight type of surplus and losing weight, not just crazy strict cuts, doing things more in kind of manageable, incremental type ways. So anyways, I do personally think that the more you can split out meals, i.e., more meals a day versus less, it just has better effects for keeping a lean type of physique, and just that's just my personal preference. But some people with shifts, that's harder to do. So the kind of things he can do is if he's having like kind of things where he's just going really, really overboard, it's not really indicative of where he is at the time when he goes overboard on the weekends. More indicative of just what was going on the whole week is what kind of leads up to that. Like I say, with people looking to lose weight, if they're eating too much at certain points, a lot of times you have them eat more through the day to not go overboard. Same kind of concept with keeping up with cheat meals or just meals a little out of the ordinary, just to you have them here and there and you don't deprive yourself. So anything Robert, anything you can do to do your best to, maybe if it's having snacks, if it's you're able to get a third meal in, those are the kind of things that can be very helpful and stuff. And it's very a lot of people that are doing the intermittent fasting, I just from what I kind of can see anecdotally, a lot of them are in with having fewer meals and such. A lot of them are at a stage where and it could work for you too. You can absolutely do it with 2 meals a day. I think it's more conducive for more. And it's a lot of people doing the more intermittent fasting approaches with less meals a lot of them are in different kind of positions where things are a lot more on whack. They don't have a lot of weight to lose and such. And that sometimes they're more maintenance type approaches is what I found. Not to say you can absolutely work it out that way as well, but there's so many different ways it can get worked. But these are just things to think about. If you're having a problem with binging, it's the kind of behaviors to be helping with not binging on the weekend is more what's going on through the week.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to my nutrition pyramid thing, right? So you have adherence and then calories, then you have macronutrients, micronutrients, and towards the top, you have meal timing. So I kind of echo what Nick said. I think you can see success with having 2 meals per day. But going back to what we were all talking about earlier, as far as spending your quote unquote calorie budget, I think having only 2 meals per day is going to make it very difficult to eat the amount that you need to eat in terms of calories and protein to see weight loss or even weight gain, right? So that would be something I'd consider is like, okay, am I having a tough time hitting my calories and macros? And if the answer to that is yes, I'd probably look at the more meals like Nick was saying. But I think a lot of stuff that I hear, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people want to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. And the studies have shown that you want about 30 to 40 grams of protein about every 4 hours or so in order to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, which is a fancy term for basically building muscle inside of your body, right? So I guess if your goal, Robert, is to lose weight and build muscle, I think you'd be better off going for like 3 or 4 meals with protein at each of those, just to try and optimize the amount of muscle that you're able to build. That being said, if having 2 meals a day is what fits your work schedule, by all means, go ahead and do that. But then you just need to figure out like, okay, am I eating enough during the week? And then that's causing compensation binges on the weekend, or just kind of like doing a deeper dive into really solving that issue, which I feel like is a little bit more complex than we can just do right here on the call. But Brian or Chase, do you guys have anything to add to that?
I'll leave that one to you guys is in terms of the weight loss, just because of Robert's situation. But I did, I understand, if you're working a night shift and everybody else in the world is eating dinner while you're having your breakfast, I can definitely see how that's a tough thing to assimilate to. But what you do is you just shift the time and make it into your own schedule. And it's entirely up to what your goals are, right? So you're trying to lose 80 pounds. I love what Tyler was saying as far as increasing the protein. So when we're eating protein, we're also increasing our thermic effect of food. So protein takes the most energy. It spends the most energy to actually absorb and process it. So you're doing 2 things by increasing your protein. You're adding more muscle mass by adding recovery from that protein. And you're also going to feel fuller alongside of that because it takes the most and it's the densest, right? So Chase, you got anything, bud?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is not like super big on the nutrition. Like y'all nailed the nutrition piece. I think one of the things I notice for myself when I'm getting really hungry is a lot of times I'll notice there's a correlation between like lack of activity and hunger.
Mm.
So what I mean is like eating when I'm bored is like real sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Or eating when I'm dehydrated is also real. So I would even say like just, make sure before like downing some food, like sometimes if you don't have your water in check, just making sure like you're drinking your water. Aim for that gallon and a half a day. Make sure you drink some water and then see how you feel afterwards before feeling like you have to go eat that thing in that moment. You know what I mean? Do you guys resonate with that?
Sometimes thirst is confused for hunger. Great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the opposite experience of like if I'm sedentary and I'm not doing anything, if I've been lazy that day, it's crazy because my appetite will be directly correlated to that and it'll be low. And it's just the exact opposite, right? With different demographics of who we work with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's hormonal. I'm more like Brian as well. Yeah, if I have less activity, I get less hungry typically. But then sometimes if there's more activity, like really hard workouts, I'm not hungry until a couple hours after my workout, if that. So it's hormonal too, and everyone's in a little bit of different balance levels. We're supposed to be a certain way, but life in this world, as we know as Christians, it's not how it's supposed to be because we fell off plan. And so our hormones are screwed up. That's basically, everyone, and some of them are worse than others, and it changes over time, right? So that, I think that's what it comes down to too, is why we react differently to different things. It's kind of crazy, but it's just, we're supposed to be wired a certain way, and we're off course kind of, it's kind of how I think of it.
well, guys, we have like 15 minutes left. I wanted to just throw it out there. If anybody has questions in the chat, take advantage of the last few minutes.
Yep.
And maybe in the meantime, guys, if you wanted to tackle the approach of why online training versus in person, and what the benefits of online training actually are.
Yeah. Who wants to start with that one? Since we're all online trainers, we got to go with the shameless plug, right?
Yeah.
I'll go right in. So,
Yeah.
guys, the biggest thing you need to achieve your fitness goals is obviously doing the work, but it's got to be, you got to work hard and you got to work smart. And working smart comes from having the right knowledge and the wisdom and how to apply it. And the scope of online coaching, I like to use the words, really, it's consulting. I don't know why they don't use that term more, but if it comes out right, it's consulting. All right. And in-person training is more, you're paying for their time, and your time and your trainer's time, or anyone's time that's in with the gym, whether it's your gym bro or your trainer, and sometimes those roles are meshed. That's not what gets you the results. And as someone that does a little bit of in-person training as well, I don't have little buttons I could push when someone's with me in person that makes them make gains more than if I just tell someone what to do remotely and they go and execute it. You know, so the biggest thing is if you know, you got to get in the mindset that it's the knowledge. It's not people's time. It's not people's ability to babysit you and stuff in person, which again, it's a lot of times in-person training delves into babysitting. There's people that hire in-person trainers because they do it they got to pay someone to get themselves to show up to the gym. It's like they're paying a babysitter to make sure that they go to the gym. And these are adults that know what they're supposed to be doing. You know, babysitting normally, you have a babysitter, make sure your kids don't burn down the house. But, you know, this is like a little different, and this is what it delves into. So the biggest thing I can say with online coaching is if you get the right coaches that are really doing an adaptable approach for you, which that includes all four of us on here, all these gentlemen are excellent and care about their clients and look to do custom work that's tailored for you. It's going to help you, and I can tell they all take a stake as well in making sure you get good results. If that's the kind of, you know, coach you're getting, and if you're disciplined enough that you can go and do the things without a babysitter, online coaching is a better scenario. Although in-person has benefits, if you really get the right people, they can show you things on a more hands-on basis, but that often is not the case. Those people end up going online for, quite frankly, business purposes. It's a more scalable model. So this is definitely where you want to be, guys, with online coaching. As long as you're disciplined enough and don't need a babysitter, you can really get someone that's really going to teach you a lot more this way. And it's more convenient for you too. Those are you folks that are busy and stuff. You're not tied down to a schedule. Like you guys like working from home and stuff, right, guys? You guys in the corporate world, we like working from home. We want to work from home too, all right? And it can be done with people that care and that are conscientious and that want to serve you.
Yeah, so good, Nick. My piece I would say on this is, like, I think a good coach's ultimate goal should be to work themselves out of a job. And what I mean by that is, after receiving coaching from a coach, you should leave that program, you should leave that time so equipped with knowledge to never need a coach again.
Yep.
You should be able to leave that time with so much understanding of how to apply those principles to your life at any given point so that you can pursue whatever fitness goals you have by yourself, never needing the support of another coach. You know, unless like Nick said, maybe you want to do something like a bodybuilding show, or you want to compete in a powerlifting type thing and you really need some more like in-depth, in-person type stuff, right? I could definitely see the value of that, but by and large, I think this model is really, really cool in the sense where all you're doing is you're getting some tweaks to your diet, you're getting some hands-on advice with just your overall disciplines and routine, and you know, you have encouragement and support from an individual that's gone before you, that's been where you want to be, and you're able to have that encouragement in your life to help you get where you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. One of my goals as a coach is that I do a 6-month program. I'm not sure about you guys, but at the end of the 6 months, I want my clients to be self-sufficient and know everything that I know when it comes to both training and nutrition. So that way they can maintain this result for the rest of their lives. So like Nick was saying, you don't want to be paying some quote unquote babysitter and rely on someone else to make you show up to the gym. Because what happens when you stop working with that person? All of your results are just going to disappear. You're going to backslide. And like, I'm also an in-person personal trainer. Thankfully, I'm actually shifting to 100% online soon. But I've experienced that where like a lot of clients too, they'll come to me for like 30-minute sessions because that's what's convenient for them. Or or my calendar is so packed that I can't actually schedule hour-long sessions. And like, can you get a good workout in 30 minutes? Yes, but oftentimes that's not enough because it doesn't have nutrition, it doesn't have accountability. There's nothing stopping my clients from, as soon as they're done with me, driving home and stopping at McDonald's on the way home and stuffing their face with like a quarter pounder and like a McFlurry or something, right? So online personal training is more results driven, and like you have a coach in your back pocket helping you make the decisions to actually get to your goal, instead of, like Nick said, paying someone for your time or just a certain number of sessions. So I think ultimately people are results driven. So I think that's why they're better suited to go online. And another thing I like to say too is that, I don't know if you had this experience, Nick, but I have clients where, you know, maybe they'll come to me for 2 workouts and then we assign a third day for them to do on their own. And it's like, okay, well, if you can do that third day on your own, why can't you do days 1 and 2 on your own, right? Like, you're able to do 1 day on your own. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think best case scenario would be joining an online program and then maybe hiring someone for like 3 or 4 sessions in the gym to make sure that they can be there, watch your form. But once you learn that, you don't need someone in person anymore. You don't need a workout buddy. You need a coach, like, to be there and help you make those decisions. What's up, Nick?
Got a suggestion too. And here's a shameless plug for my programs. I bet you these gentlemen might have this feature as well in their coaching, but I have exercise videos where I personally myself teach you how to do the exercises. So there really are like no excuses that you're afraid that you're just going to be going and doing the gym, and one day you're going to do your shoulder presses like this, one day you're going to do them like this. I have videos where I teach people how to do them and stuff. And so again, like working from home, things get done in slightly different ways, slightly different frames. Just like, it's like the same thing like working from home. And what Tyler said about what he's referring to is like, there's a different scope of in-person training versus online coaching. Online coaching, even though you don't get as much of someone's time, which is not what brings you results in the first place, it is a larger scope covering much more, versus in-person training is really just overseeing someone's workout. You know, it's a larger scope with in-person training, you know, so that's something he hit on as well. And yeah, I'm just in full agreement. Everything they're saying, guys, is true. You know, everyone here, you know, is telling you just the straight facts. We obviously, you know, we're making plugs for our program, so we're telling you straight facts that can help you as well. You can learn this stuff for yourself. It just takes longer because we have the experience where we know how to apply specifics to you, but you seriously can learn the stuff on your own too, without a trainer, without a coach. You know, it's really just, you know, it's speed is what you'd be paying for if you brought on a coach. Yeah. Speed, implementation, wisdom to apply specifically to you what you need, you know?
Yeah. And I think
so good, Nick.
To see if, like, for example, let's say someone is watching on here, but they don't like any of us for whatever reason, and they go hire someone else as an online trainer. I think all of us would be still happy to see that, because ultimately you're investing in yourself and you're getting the help that you know you need to become a better person. So like, yeah, we're talking about our programs and that this is what we do for a living, but like at the end of the day, we just want to see you guys get help and reach those goals. I did see there's 2 questions in the chat, so you guys want to tackle those real quick and then we can call it a night. One of them was about water intake varying based on activity level. So does anyone want to answer that? Like,
fast metabolism one. Let me read it real quick. Tons of carbs and red meat, but the little time that I do have to hit the gym, it seems like I lose weight. So this is going to go back to the numbers game, dude. Pretty much, here's how it is. If you are taking in more calories than you're expending, you'll gain weight. Like, there's no question about it. That's just math. So what I would do, if you're not already, I mean, is you just got to start tracking the calories that you're taking in. And then with the fact that you have a super fast metabolism, the calculators that you have online are going to be, there's going to give you an option of how active you are. And in your case, dude, I would just set it to the highest one. If you're working out consistently, you have a super fast metabolism and you're not gaining weight, chances are you just need to set that a little bit higher and test where that caloric surplus lies at. Because, you know, and the way that you can think about it is, if you're in a surplus of 250 calories a day, you're going to gain a half pound a week. If you're in a surplus of 500 calories a day, you're going to gain a pound a week. And so if you're not doing that, then you're probably either at a maintenance level or below.
Yeah, and then another one was water intake. So does anybody have any advice on that? I'm trying to find, I was just going through my NASM stuff. I remember there's a chart on water intake, so I'm going to try and pull that up real quick.
I've got something super simple with water intake, guys. Like, everyone's like how people sweat, everyone's metabolism, everything is just different. So the simplest thing for water intake is just make sure your pee is the right color.
Yep.
If you're someone that's looking to gain weight, if you drink too much water, that'll have an effect of expelling more waste from you. It could make it harder to gain weight. If you're someone that's cutting weight, not at the stage where you're looking to like cut for a bodybuilding show, I mean normal, healthy weight ranges that you're looking to cut from, then having a little bit of more water intake to try to expel more waste can be more helpful. But really it's just pee color, making sure also as well, this is something I learned when
Solid.
Yep, you're back. You're back.
Yeah. I forgot. I have a social media app that shuts everything off at 8 p.m. So that way it's like my stop working. Probably would have been convenient to turn that off prior to doing this live. But yeah, I was pulling up the NASM recommendations. I agree with Nick. I feel like oftentimes it can be complicated. Like just drink water until you have like 4 or 5 clear urinations each day. That should be good. But if you really want to get scientific about it, for men, you're supposed to be drinking about 3.7 liters per day. 2 hours pre-exercise, you want 14 to 20 ounces. 15 minutes before exercise, you want 16 ounces if tolerated, and then about 4 to 8 ounces every 20 minutes during exercise. So do you need to get that granular with it? Probably not. Just drink until like your thirst is quenched and you should be okay. That's probably not going to make or break your goals. But yeah, guys, this has been really fun. There's been a couple questions that have come in the chat. I don't know about you guys. I enjoyed doing this, so maybe we can save some of those questions for a second Instagram live, and we can do this again and that kind of thing. But anybody have any like final questions, comments, concerns before we sign off here?
Okay. This has been a great time. What's up, Jim? Hey, good to see you, man. Yeah, this has been a great time. Yeah, if anybody like has like any questions about anything, like every single person here on this call is like so knowledgeable and mature in their field. And so follow every single person on here. People that follow me, follow them. They're incredible. They love the Lord and they love people well. And honestly, if you're looking at purchasing a coach and bringing their program into your life, you want to be working with somebody that truly cares about you and truly cares about the results you're getting. And that's what you'll get with any person here. So follow these guys, check out what they got. And anybody here that aligns well with one of their things, man, hit them up and they will help you achieve your goals in the best way they can.
A second that, Jace, yeah.
I thought that.
Fourth that. Yeah. Follow everybody who's in here because we all post great content that's going to help you guys with your goals. But yeah, I think that's all we've got for this evening, boys. It was a pleasure. And I guess final note, hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
There's lots to be grateful for, right? So enjoy time with friends and family, recharge, and yeah, let's stay on top of our goals. Just because it's Thanksgiving doesn't mean we can slack.
Come on.
Yep.
All right, guys. Cool. Well, have a great rest of your evening, and yeah, we'll have to plan a time to do this again soon.
Let's do
Absolutely.
it.
I learned from you guys as well. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
Absolutely. All right. See you
Good
guys.
stuff, guys. Cheers.
Yep. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, if you're not following Nick, Brian, or Chase on their Instagram pages as well, go ahead and do so because they are some amazing Christian fitness coaches that I think you guys will continue to get a lot of value out of as well. And before we part ways, if you're interested in learning more about the Physique Lab coaching program and how we might be able to help you reach your goals, I will put a thumbnail to a video down below right here. I'll also link it as a time card up there and put it in the video description down below. So if you're interested in learning more about my backstory, how I got to where I am today, my transformation, and then the program itself and the methods that we use within the program to see if it would be a good fit for you, feel free to check out that video. But that's it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and with that, I'll see you in the next video.